Hello, welcome to Martinmade. My name's Stephanie, and today I'm going to give you my 4 to 12 week pregnancy update. So this update is going to be just a little bit longer than it normally will be because I'm essentially giving you 12 weeks in one video. So they normally won't be this long, but I just wanted to get you caught up because we have just announced it. There's quite a lot that has actually happened over the past 12 weeks. I am actually a little further along, but I wanted to give you this update, and then I'll be actually filming my 13 and 14 week update just so that you guys can kind of get caught up to where we are today. So my 12 weeks were quite the roller coaster ride. I had found out that I was expecting actually when I was just 4 weeks. I was not quite myself. I had been having dreams, nightmares, and I had a dream that my husband had left me and he wouldn't tell me why or where he was going, and it really scared me. And for some reason I held on to that dream, and all day I had thought about it. And my husband gets home and he's like, well, what's wrong with you? You don't seem yourself. And we had gone all evening, and he's like, something's up. And I told him, I said, I had this dream and I don't know why, but it's just affecting me. And I was like bawling and just in tears. And he said, I don't know, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, it was just a dream. So I put it off, but every once in a while it would just pop back up into my head. And so I was having these dreams like this, and they scared me. But a couple of days after that dream, I had gone out to Wendy's for lunch, and I had gotten a chili. I was bringing it home, and I love Wendy's chili. And when I went to eat the chili for lunch, it just turned my stomach. I was like, this is disgusting. I can't even handle it. But it's one of my favorite things to get when I'm out is Wendy's chili. But it kind of turned my stomach away. So I decided that day, I was like, you know what? I was going to test tomorrow just because my emotions had been all over the map. But I decided to just go ahead and test. And I was just 4 weeks when I tested, and I was pregnant according to the test. So I told my husband when he got home, and he was quite ecstatic. But we had a huge hurdle to get over just over the next couple of weeks. The biggest thing was I have had an ectopic pregnancy, and when you've had an ectopic pregnancy, and especially if you've had surgery, you run a higher risk of having another ectopic. Especially me, they were going to be taking out my ovary as well as my tube, but they didn't need to. They were able to just stitch up the tube, and my ovary was fine. But because of that, I have scar tissue inside. And so that can also be a cause for another ectopic. So I have to be overly cautious at the very beginning of every pregnancy from now on, because I have to make sure that it's not an ectopic. And so first thing was first, we had to call somebody and try to get in for blood work right away. So we called my fertility clinic because we were with them and we were doing stuff with them already. So we called them up, said, hey, we got a positive pregnancy test here. Is there any way we could come in and just get a pregnancy blood work test just to see what my beta is? And so they're like, sure, come on in. We'll check your blood. And so I went in one day. Actually, the day that I left a message for them, they called me back and said, come right on in, we'll take you. And so they took me in that morning, got my blood. The numbers looked great. They were well over 200. And then when we went back 2 days later to get another repeat test to see how the numbers doubled, it was almost 500. And so they said, everything looks great, but you need to get into a doctor because you've got to get an ultrasound right away. So sure enough, I get into the doctor, and that was like over the weekend. So it would have been like Tuesday of that following week. I got into the doctor and we talked a little bit. I was able to talk to him about my meds because with the pregnancy that I had with Silas, I was sick the entire pregnancy. And so I was on Declectin the whole pregnancy. And so I asked him if I could just get a prescription for that just in case the pregnancy does go through that and I start getting sick. It would be nice to have something on hand just in case. And so he gave me all my prescriptions that I needed for anything, and we got that all settled, and he put me in for an ultrasound. So I called the ultrasound place that day to make an appointment, and they told me, you are in an emergency situation, so you need to come in during our emergency hours today to get your ultrasound. So they booked me for like 6 o'clock that evening, and I got in for my ultrasound. They got in, and the lady said that she could see a sac, and it was in the uterus, but she said that the baby, or like the sacs are so small that she could easily miss one. So they were probably going to need me to come back in 7 to 10 days for another ultrasound, just to make sure that they caught it. And if there was one in the tube, they would have to take care of all of that. And so sure enough, I left, and I was hoping to hear back from my doctor because that was just what the technician had said. She didn't give me any requisition or anything for another ultrasound. She said your doctor will get a hold of you and let you know they have a requisition for another ultrasound. So I waited for my doctor to call, and a week passed and I hadn't heard anything. And I kind of thought, well, maybe something isn't quite right. And so I was already almost 6 weeks along. It was like, because by the time I got in to see my doctor, I would have been about 5 weeks. And then by the time I actually got just about a week beyond that, I'm almost 6 weeks. And I was starting to get nervous because my ectopic, I started spotting with the ectopic at 6 weeks. So I was starting to already get kind of nervous about everything. And I still hadn't heard from my doctor, but I was like, well, maybe he's just going to wait until my 8-week appointment, and we'll take care of all that then. So 6 weeks to the day comes, and I started spotting again. I was like, oh no, this is going to be another ectopic. I don't actually know what to do other than to get into the doctor. And so I called the doctor and I said, do I need to go to the emergency room, or can I just come in and talk to you? I'd rather come in and talk to him because 6 hours in the emergency room, 5 hours in the emergency room did not sound like something I wanted to do that night. So he said, come right on in. We'll take you right away. So he got me in, and we talked a little bit, and he gave me my ultrasound, and he said, call them right away. We'll see what's going on. And so sure enough, I get a hold of the ultrasound place, and they begin to tell me I needed to come in then right away for an emergency ultrasound. And I think they booked me, by the time I got out of the doctor's, it was about noon, and I had an appointment at like 4 o'clock. So they had me in pretty quick to go to the ultrasound, get in there, and the lady looks and she said, well, we see a baby and it is in the uterus. And so we were able to confirm that it wasn't in there was nothing in any of the tubes. So that was a huge, huge blessing. Those couple weeks were really, really scary and frustrating all at the same time. We had a big ordeal with both of the ultrasounds that I had done. What had happened was the ultrasound clinic never sent over to my doctor all the results from the tests, which they were supposed to do. So that's why my doctor never got back with me. And so after the second ultrasound, I made for sure that I called every couple days and said, do you have my ultrasound stuff? And they were like, no, we don't. No, we don't. And so they had to actually say, hey, where's her ultrasound stuff? You're not sending us our stuff that we've asked for. And so we got all of that back and everything looked good. They were able to find a heartbeat at the 6-week ultrasound. And the heartbeat was like 160. And so it all sounded really good and everything looked good. And so I was on the way to what I was hoping would be a little easier of a road. And so we ended up being able to go all the way to my 8-week appointment. And at my 8-week appointment, my doctor just kind of reviewed over everything that had been going on. And we talked a little bit about how I was feeling and everything. So we got through all of that, and he gave me another requisition because he wanted to check just before 12 weeks. He wanted to just make sure everything is still okay, just especially because to ease my mind with everything that had been happening as well as with other pregnancies. So at 11 weeks, we were supposed to go in and get an ultrasound. So my doctor sent us off. We got to 11 weeks, we had another ultrasound, and after this ultrasound, 2 days later, I got a call from my doctor, and he said, so they found a subchorionic hematoma behind the placenta. I was like, oh no, what is that? And he said, it's just kind of like a bruise or a little pocket of like blood that's behind the placenta, but we don't want it to get any bigger. He said it's about the size of a toonie, which for those in the States, it's about the size of like $1 coin. So he said it's about that size, but we need to be extra careful. He said, I don't want any exercise going on. I want you to be careful, no lifting. I want to make sure that it goes away. And he said that it can, especially if it gets bigger, it can basically cause the baby to abort. And the baby would obviously die. It can be dangerous for the baby if it gets bigger. So we want to get this taken care of. So I am under restrictions where I can't lift, which is hard with Silas, but I'm also under restrictions. I'm not supposed to do any kind of exercise right now, which is very hard for me because I would like to exercise to get some energy, but I just have to be extra careful, he said. So I have an appointment when I'm actually 17 weeks. We're going to check it again and just make sure that the hematoma has healed up and it's all taken care of. So really, it's just a waiting game right now with that. That's kind of where I am as of 12 weeks. I'm going to let you know how I've been feeling. I have my paper here. At the end of all of my updates, I will give you a list of things, the ways that I've been feeling the past however many weeks. It should be about every 2 weeks. So I've been feeling lots of emotions. As you can tell, there's lots that has been happening here. So I'm happy and excited, scared, nervous, sad, everything that you can possibly think of all rolled into one big ball of emotions. I've been really sick. I do take the Declectin, but even with Silas, I still had bouts of nausea. I would throw up still. And this pregnancy has kind of been the same. I've been upping my dose of Declectin to what I can. Thoroughly exhausted. My 8-week blood work that I had done, it came back. I was really exhausted and tired all the time, but I was like, I'm pregnant. That's why. And I do take iron because I am anemic. I've had to be on iron here and there just because I am anemic. Well, I was already taking iron and my doctor called me and said, your blood work came back and you are low on your iron. So you're going to have to start taking an iron supplement. And I was like, well, I'm already taking iron, so just up my dose a little bit more. And he was like, yeah, that's what you'll need to do. So I have doubled my iron dose. I'm starting to feel a little bit better, but I also think it's everything settling down with the pregnancy. So I just have to make sure I stay on top of that iron all the time. Nightmares have been the worst. I had horrible nightmares for the first trimester with Silas, and this one has not been any different. I have had so many nightmares. Like, it wakes me up in the middle of the night. I can't sleep well. And dreams are kind of one of those, the vivid dreams are really fine. But then there's, when they are nightmares, like bloody and gory nightmares, that's where I just struggle to sleep. I also have had a sore back. Nothing new with pregnancy. And then I've also had headaches and I get out of breath. I'm going to give you a look at the belly bump and then I'm going to let you go. Okay, so there's the bump. I feel like it's bigger than it was when I was pregnant with my son. But anyways, if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. For those of you who are new to this channel, you can hit that red subscribe button down below. And for those who would like to comment down below, I love hearing from you guys. So comment and I will let you know whatever it is you want to know. So I will talk to you guys later and I will see you in the next video. Bye.